We're doing food and robotics, two of the hardest fields, right? How the hell are we going to get this done? Well, we're figuring that out right now. So this is why we're going to go into accelerators by the latter part of the year and put devices there, our first alpha hand-built prototypes there, so that people can actually experience putting cartridges of food in there. So on the food side, we got to make the food, right? Because until we get to a certain size, nobody's going to want to play it with us. But so we can take fresh ingredients, cook food on a daily basis in a common kitchen, delivering them into a certain place so that if you want food, you just tap a button, you pay for it, and you pop cartridges in there, it makes food for you because the food is perishable.
But like, you put in, so let's say I want to make, I don't know,
Okay, yep.
relatively simple everything for something like this. So you have eggs, right? Some vegetables that you're going to...
Little oil at first to coat the pan, and then you have eggs, and then whatever vegetables that you choose.
Now, is the oil already in there? And
it could be delivered via the machine to start, and then it pours the eggs in there. Eggs are usually in an induction cooktop. It takes about a minute to actually start frying up, and then it gets to a certain form factor. But you want it to be liquidy enough, but not too liquidy, because then it won't coat the vegetables, and so that at that time you have to add in the vegetables, right? You have to let it sit for a little while, and then spin it around for a little while. So there you have an omelet.
You know, like, is there a separate? Would there be a separate compartment down the road for like salt, pepper?
Absolutely.
You know, all different.
Absolutely,
things?
because food is so individualistic. You know, that's a part of the data that we're gathering. That's part of the feedback loop that eventually stores will use to actually drive food, you know, into your home, because they know exactly what you want. They can deliver it at a time. Pricing, sourcing is very important, and also the quality that you want, and quantity too. Okay.
Well, but is that your product, or?
Yeah, so that's a looks like prototype. So we were on TV. We've gotten a tremendous amount of coverage for this because we're venturing into some real uncharted territories. So there's a show called Food Fortunes that it's like almost like a Shark Tank for food. So when we premiered this, we made some high-end, high-grade ramen with better ingredients for the audience, and they tried it, and so they asked the audience, who would want to buy this? 84% of the people said they wanted to buy it. And at that time, we were testing price sensitivity too, because we said, what if it was 600 bucks? That number came down. So we're going to continue to iterate upon pricing and also validation for users.
Don't you think it would be better, rather than trying to sell like a unit like that to a consumer, going to like a restaurant where they're doing one, you know, let's say start with one product, you know, food or boiling pasta, straining the pasta, and making that almost like industrial manufacturing car.
That was our first thought too, right? That was actually totally our first thought. That was what a lot of people asked us as well, until when we actually got out into the field and did consumer validation. When you went into a restaurant, one chef says, I want a 50-gallon drum, okay? The next one says, no, I want something that's much smaller, or I want something that's going to be able to actually take and flip much faster. Everybody wants something custom, because in a restaurant, there's a certain standard that you need, right? We think a lot of that could be done in a restaurant, or it could be done in a purveyor's, so that you can actually do that at home. So we found out quickly that if we're going to make custom machines, it's going to cost us probably $100,000 to $200,000 for each machine that we made, plus software, and you can't grow a company that way. But in a consumer home, a lot of times this is the end effector upon which you can actually make food. So it's the last mile that you can just say, you know what, you can put the food in there and then it'll happen. It's almost like the next version of the microwave.
What is the opinion from professional chefs, like for example Gordon Ramsay? Because I think when he sees this, he's like, fuck, all over the place.
Exactly. So now that he doesn't have to yell at a person, he yells at the machine, right? So
I'm not sure if that's the outcome, but
So here's the thing. Here's what chefs should be thinking about, because we've validated this with quite a few chefs, and they said, all right, so are you replacing me? And we said, no, you're the artist. We're giving you the chance to shine. You make food, right? You curate food to a certain extent. You can have your secret seasonings, you can have your secret recipe, right? Or you can actually just do certain types of food. Let's say across the street, there's a barbecue place. You smoke that pork butt for a certain amount of time. But if you microwave it, it zaps out all the flavor, it dries it out because it dehydrates food. But if you're actually able to repot it, then you can actually make it better. So they can actually deliver ingredients par cooked, meaning that's cooked a certain percent, to consumers. They already add value. Now they have a supply chain to do this with 50 meals to here, 500 meals, 500,000 meals across the nation, or 5 million meals across the world. Now food is interactive. So they see their ability to actually do this from one sourcing house without incurring overhead, because most professional chefs, they barely get by.
I think it's different. I think we're going to provide a solution for people to eat healthy at home, and then they go out for dinner for the experience.
Yeah. So exactly, they go out to the restaurants for the experience, but there's not, who's to say that there's not a middle of the road where they can actually cook restaurant quality food and deliver you to par cooked ingredients, and you can have restaurant quality meals in your kitchen every day.
Yep, then they're cannibalizing their own sales.
Not at all.
No?
Not at all, because they're expanding, because they have a tiered system, because you can't go there to eat every night.
Yeah, can you tell me? So it seems like you're kind of doing the Keurig model.
Yes.
Do you predict that the majority of your revenue will come from the monthly subscription or the weekly?
Yeah, it's a razor blades model. So it's going to be from the food, because food, we're looking at 50% plus margin on that. The hardware is eventually a wash. If you talk to a number of VCs, this is the model they're looking for, because they're looking for recurring revenue. Because when you just sell a piece of hardware, like the Coolest Cooler, which is one of the Kickstarter's all-time, highest grossing things, right? A lot of VC says, we won't even touch the Coolest Cooler, because all they can do is next time come out with the next cooler. If somebody else is better than them, I just lost a business, right? So when you do hardware, look at what your recurring model could be, because that's going to get you your evaluation.
Yeah, I'm curious what the ingredients and source of the food is.
So ingredients and source of the food, right now, as we start, we're going to have to do this on our own. We're going to have to be able to source the food probably from retail, and then make it in our co-packing kitchen, and then send it out. But as we continue to move forward, we want to get out of that game, because so many people do that as their core business. They do it better. So we want the HelloFreshes, the Blue Aprons, to be able to actually deliver food in our packaging format that fits in our machine to be able to actually cook it.
So for instance, back to the omelet example.
The
omelet example,
okay,
I would get a package of fresh mushrooms.
Fresh mushrooms, probably pre-cut, like a couple of days ago, right? Eggs that are already broken into and then the way that you preserve food naturally is use certain type of noble gas, and then you can actually just get those packets, you pop it in, you push a button. Okay. Somebody else has a question? Okay.
So I know you're doing the food yourselves now, and eventually moving to third party. Right. At what scale does it become profitable, where you're able to buy the food wholesale cheap enough and start getting real returns on it?
Right. So that depends. That's a very good question, because when you do something that's perishable within a certain time frame, you got to start one market at a time, kind of like how Facebook did one socialization markets at a time. You have to be able to do that until there's enough distribution, because we see distribution is really ramping up. And when distribution ramps up, costs are going to come down, and that's going to meet somewhere in the middle. We don't know what that time is, but we project it's probably anywhere from the next 2 to 5 years.
Awesome.
Please. What would you retail it for?
Okay, so the device, about $499.
Rateable to like a KitchenAid.
KitchenAid or Vitamix, right. But if people subscribe to food, if they subscribe to our meals, let's say 10 meals a month, then we can actually take that much lower. Be like an iPhone model, because it's a razor and a razor blades, right? So you could actually have that for $199, and then we continue to have so much guarantees in terms of food turnover. So, I want to show you something that I think was you actually earlier that said you're making a certain device, you're ready for DFM. Okay. I thought we were ready for DFM as well. I was like, oh yeah, we have a clunky prototype, we'll get it to the factories, they'll use interchangeable parts to be able to do that. How wrong were we? So we started the program, we said, okay, we can just take this and just beef it up. The engineers make you rethink your hypothesis. They want you to think whether this is actually capable of being replicated. We had a robotic arm just like any other. It's a robotic arm that folds and twists, right? Standard throughout the industry. But then they said, well, how are you going to close a gap, right? Because if you fold, you're going to have some type of gaps here. Water, steam, it's all going to get into it. What are you going to do with that? So we said, okay, let's change that around. So all of a sudden we had a eureka moment that said, what if a robotic arm could be sliced within a certain angle? Have an angular robotic arm that twists upon its own axis. Because instead of just doing this, because you don't cook like this, right? You cook like this. There you go.
That's the mechanism we're seeing there.
Yeah. So we rethought it and we prototyped it. I mean, this was literally within a matter of days. It's able to actually twist and turn. So effectively, we just made a new type of robotic arm. This is the thinking that people ask you to do when you're in these accelerator programs. Take what you know, throw that out the window because there's some flaws to it. Rethink it. Rethink how people would use something. Rethink how your market would adapt to it. There were concerns, can we get this done? I mean, we have the most complicated project by far at Highway 1, this whole cohort. But
and your software makes a pattern in the pan, so it touches every area.
It could. Yeah. So we've even come up with an application where you draw a circle, you show the robot how to do something, and it does it.
What if your pen is a square? Sometimes that happens.
You could do that as well because it's just a positioning system. It's an X, Y, and Z positioning system.
Do you set the temperature on it too? So for instance, if it said like starting out at high heat and then simmer on high.
Yeah, the beautiful part of that is that as you start moving on, you're going to have an app. You can actually change all of that. Yeah. Minute 2, do this. Minute 5, do this. It's all modular. You can actually program it just the way that you want it so that it can cook the meal that you want. This is going to get us to iterations where every stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad and say, I have a treasure trove of recipes. Why don't I just start making this? And they socialize it out. We plug in an ingredient back into this. This is going to be the biggest business because revenue from food is the biggest spend of your day.